June series. The June series simply is the education pillar for our consortium. So thank you again for participating in that. So a little bit about our consortium. We are a group of HBCUs that have come together to support data science research education, as you saw in our pillars, and we try to build partnerships across industry and other HBCUs to support them. And we also have a student chapter of undergraduates or graduate students that are working in the data science space, which we call data science student ambassadors. And these are the schools where we have chapters currently as student ambassadors for our consortium. We have a group of Alabama A&M, Bowie, Delaware State, Morehouse, Florida A&M, and Winston-Salem State. And these students are doing their own data science research and present their findings at our annual celebration, which was just held in April of this year. So we're looking to do our next celebration early next year, 2025. So be on the lookout for more information as that will come about. So with that being said, I am going to stop sharing. And I am now going to ask Mr. Shields if he is ready to go, and we are prepared to listen to his exciting discussion.
Yes, I am. Thank you so very much. That was an excellent presentation. And I just wanted to add to that that I am really honored to be associated in the very smallest way with the HBCU Data Science Consortium, to the mission, to the cause. There's a lot of, we were just speaking before the session started here, and there's a lot of work to be done. And I'm just proud to be part of that work. A lot of good things to happen. So one brick at a time, as I say. So thanks again. And yes, I am ready to go. Let me just share my screen. This. And okay. And I'll just present here. Everyone see my screen okay?
Yes, we're good.
Okay, awesome. So thanks again. And I'm just going to jump right into things. So where to start with data is the title of this session. And I am speaking from a space from folks that I have spoken to personally who are either now entering the space, have heard buzzwords about data science or data analytics, and have a bit of a struggle where to position it in terms of how to acquire the skills, how to really get more educated about it, and where to position things. What's most important to focus on? So in this session, I hope to kind of hit on some of those notes. And so let's go. I do have a segment for questions, but feel free to buzz in questions as I go along here. Okay. All right. So firstly, let me just get this bar out of the way. One sec. Okay, here better. All right, so here's sort of the agenda ahead. We're going to just cover a few pointers here, my journey in data, some of the core skill sets when it comes to data analytics and data science, some of the courses that I have seen that is beneficial, just some of them, just to kind of point folks in the right direction. And beyond these skills, right, some of the important pointers in terms of what you should consider just beyond acquiring the skill set in these two disciplines, right? And we're going to end with some question and answers, as I mentioned before. Okay. Okay. So let me just. All right. So who am I? I am Walter Shields, as I was so beautifully introduced. And I am best known for a few different things. I do really feel passionate about helping folks become skilled in the disciplines of data science and data analytics. I'm just getting them the educational foundation to to make a stronghold in these two disciplines. I am a LinkedIn Learning instructor. I do have a number of courses on LinkedIn Learning platform. I'm really happy to know that I am contributing in this way to help folks. So under the pillar of Walter Shields Data Academy, this is kind of one of the ways that I want to just help folks acquire these skills. So that's one of the things I'm known for, and also a best-selling author, kind of surprising to myself as well. But about a few years ago, 6 years or so ago, was approached by a publisher, went to town writing a book for 2 years, and coming out of that was this book called SQL Quick Start Guide, which has then become a bestseller and still is today. So very humbled by that experience. And I am also a data literacy coach. So I go into companies, for instance, like Mazda currently, and help their staff become data literate, help them understand how to leverage the tools and how to really leverage educational courses so that they can become empowered as a data literate contributor in their organization. Okay, so that's a few things about me. Okay, so you heard about me, so it's not all about me, it's about you too. So I just don't want to be the talking head up here. So please, questions are welcome, but I also want to know a little bit about you. So tell me in the form of A, B, C, and D, so you could drop this in the chat. If you are, and I'll just drop them all, you're a beginner with zero experience, you want a career as a data analyst or data scientist, you're a professional looking to skill up, or you just want to be better prepared for a data-driven world. And these are categories broad, and if you fall outside of this, just let me know. But these are categories of folks that I've spoken to personally that, have been entering this realm of, well, what is data? Where do you start with it, right? How could I position it for myself? Okay, so I'm not. Let me see if I can see the chat here. Can I see the chat? Anyone in the chat telling me if it's ABC? Okay, got it. I see. Kind of hard to see my mouse here, but I'm gonna try. Just went back. Okay. I'm gonna move this down here. Okay. So I'm kind of seeing some stuff. I'm gonna ask for some help for what's actually being dropped in the chat because I cannot see everything there.
So we go from A to D. You don't have anything in the middle. It's either all or nothing.
Okay, awesome. I just like to know too, just like, who's in the folks. But I actually kind of try to tailor what I'm about to say next to, folks who are predominantly in the room, but I'll speak to everyone regardless. So just good to know. But thank you for that. Good to know. So why is this important to know, and important to know now, right? So a few fun facts. Let me just refer to my notes here as well. But a few fun facts. So high demand job growth, right? So data science jobs are projected to grow 31%. And that's from the period 2019 to 2029. And this is from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, right? Very lucrative salaries. Median salary for data scientists is $98,230 per year, according to Glassdoor. Versatile career opportunities, right? There's a lot of different directions you could go in. Data analytics skills are needed across industries like finance, healthcare, manufacturing, marketing, and more. And also, last but not least, empowering decision-making, which is kind of the point of doing all of this. And what is an interesting statistic, 74% of businesses believe data analytics gives them a competitive edge. And this is by MicroStrategy. I think that's a really important last pointer, because if the employers or businesses or corporations are of this belief to such a large percent, then that spells what is the opportunity for us coming in as data analysts or data scientists out there in the professional world, okay? All right, so let me dive in a little bit to sharing a bit about who I am. I know I said a little bit of what I'm known for, but a little bit about my story kind of tells about why I'm on this journey myself. So I'm a Trini, as they say, from the island of Trinidad and Tobago, known for calypso, limbo, all that. But I'm very happy to go back every year and participate in Carnival. You should try it out if you get the chance to. Really nice, fun time to have. All right. Within being in Trinidad, I did realize there are certain limitations, right? When it comes to my educational journey, I was very interested in computer science, and that sort of had a limit to how far I could go in Trinidad. So then here became my American dream. I started to, I went to university here in the United States, got my bachelor's degree, started to work in New York City Transit Authority, right, as a data analyst, and started. That's my first journey into the professional world, and it felt really good. Up until that point, I had been supported by my mom, in my educational journey, and at this point, having transitioned and graduated and having a job, I was finally able to actually give back, right? Help my mom out and everything like that. Then, fast forward after working a few years, everything changed. How did everything change? Well, my mom was diagnosed with liver cancer. And at that point, she was from the point of diagnosis to the point of passing away was just 1 year. So that really rocked my world, really had me in a state of, well, what is important? Yeah, yes, it was great to have the American dream, so to speak, and accomplish things and help. But at that point, I was really questioning the world of everything. And I really wanted to find more purpose. So that led me to having a change of my own, right? I kind of questioned my journey and really wanted to plug into helping. My mom herself was a teacher. That had to have inspired me in some way. But what connected me was along my professional journey, I really resonated with folks that I worked with and was the kind of go-to person for questions about data. And lo and behold, I said, let me really try to do something and really purposefully go in this direction of helping others, which seemed to come natural to me. So before I go there, jumped ahead a little bit. One of the main things that actually catapulted me in this space was in New York, where I lived. I went to a coffee shop. I remember a coffee shop in Tribeca, New York, called Gotan Coffee Shop. I don't know if you remember a meetup. I opened a meetup group and said like, hey, you know what? If you're interested in learning about data analytics, learning about SQL, I'll be in this coffee shop at this time. I'm the dude with the red laptop. If you want to learn something, tap me on the shoulder. I did this a couple of times, and before I knew it, the whole coffee shop was full of people. Until I started doing this weekly, started working with Citibank, who actually offered a free space in the city for folks like myself who offered educational stuff. And that's fast forward to the book, fast forward to now doing partnerships with LinkedIn Learning and everything that I mentioned from. So I just wanted to say that I am truly, really invested in the purpose of this, right? Everything else is sort of whatever else happens, but I'm really invested in the person, and I recognize that spirit of a person that says, hey, you know what? I want to change, or I want to really acquire the skill, because it goes so much beyond learning the skills that we're about to talk about, right? All right. So going forward here. How to get started with data analytics, the theme of this whole session here. So let's dive into this, and we'll talk about a few components. So here are the top 3 skills you should be focused on if you are in the track of data analytics. And I just want to keep in sync with some of my notes here as well. And one of the key components that I ask folks when they say, hey, you know what, where do I go? Where do I turn to? I'm not sure what to focus on. I always say, forget all of the skills to begin with, right? Let's not even talk about skills. Let's not even talk, just really search yourself, right? I know that sounds probably really fluffy to some folks, but really, ask yourself the question, where do you see yourself excelling? What excites you, right? What do you see yourself? And it doesn't even have to be technical. And folks who are in a space that is actually in a job, maybe some part of that job you're really excelling in or you're excited about, right? So what is that, right? And then now you can now have a target or a goal or something to drive you through whatever it is. And we'll walk through the actual nuts and bolts as far as the technical skills. But I say that to say that is going to be your driving factor through whatever is the journey of data analytics or data science. Okay. So, all right, here are the 3 skills: Excel, SQL, and Power BI. And maybe a lot of folks have learned Excel, but I'm speaking about these 3 skills in terms of being a data analyst, right? From that perspective. So starting with Microsoft Excel, I would always say, if this is your thing and you've searched and you found like, hey, you know what, this is a space and this is the reason why I really want to do this stuff. Here are some things to consider, right? As far as Excel, I think it's a great first step because most folks have used Excel. You're using Excel in some degree, some way, some capacity. Most companies that you go into are using Microsoft Excel, right? But now you have to acquire the skill set of Microsoft Excel and use it in the way typically it's used in data analysis. And this is a typical way. There are multiple ways, but usually you would use Excel as that medium between the data source, which is why that database is on the left, and you're extracting data in whatever form that data might be in this one or multiple databases, and you're bringing it into Excel in a dirty form and then cleaning that data. So in the process of moving from dirty to clean, that is a lot of the nuts and bolts of at least I'd say the functions that you would need to be aware of when it comes to applying data analytics within Excel. So the functions of actually like VLOOKUPs, XLOOKUPs, and specifically the functions of cleaning the data, separating names, doing truncations of names, converting data types, that would be skills that you would need to acquire within Microsoft Excel, and with the purpose of doing a number of different functions within Excel. Again, Excel is just sort of a quick and dirty approach in terms of the way of using it as a data analytics tool, but it is a very important component in the data analytics stack in terms of your journey of becoming a data analyst, right? The image on the right is just to show there are a number of different charts and graphs that you could actually leverage within Microsoft Excel to help display or create a narration of the data that you're analyzing, okay? All right, so that's Microsoft Excel. SQL, very important in the stack of a data analyst in terms of the tool set a data analyst should have. I would say it's something you cannot avoid, right? As a data analyst, you would need to, as we saw with Microsoft Excel, you're actually speaking on that database level, right? I'll just back up to Excel again, right? In Excel, you're actually pulling from that database. In SQL, you're actually working within the database, right? So now that requires a whole next level of skills in terms of understanding how data is stored. it's a relational database. So you need to understand how data is stored within this particular format, which is in multiple tables, right? Which relates in certain ways. So you have to understand certain components, primary foreign keys concepts, and the middle diagram there is meant to show, well, within this world of working in a database, there's a particular language, which is SQL, that you're using to now analyze the data that's stored in there. And by the way, that's often what happens, or that's often the step that's unseen to someone who's unfamiliar with SQL who works with Excel, right? It's often some sort of subset of view or some sort of slice of the data within a database that you're now extracting and working with within Excel, right? Which is what that third diagram to the right there, which is kind of looks like an Excel spreadsheet, right? But that's often the result of a query that you could then export into Excel and then do further analysis. Okay, so a very key skill set to have. And last but not least is Power BI. I say Power BI, but that Power BI falls under the umbrella of data visualization. And I specifically say Power BI because, especially as a beginner coming in, there have been quite a number of tools, and I'm not an advocate of one or the other, but I've used things like old school, like SSRS, which is probably dating myself a lot, SQL Server Reporting Services. You have evolved to things like Tableau. There's QlikView, and a lot of different evolutions of data analytics tools. And there's Power BI, which is Microsoft's product. And I say this to say just the same way that I say Excel, right? Excel is so super common in every professional workspace, and Power BI is becoming akin to that, right? Within the space of data visualization, and it's super easy to learn. There's different levels as in any software that you could learn and be more complex, but to be functional and produce a report that you share and discuss as a data-driven, from a data-driven perspective, Microsoft Power BI allows you to do that very, very easily, right? And it's a really key tool in your data analyst stack, right? In fact, you use that whole transition from Excel, often from a database using SQL to Excel, and Excel is consumed by Power BI, right? And then illustrated in a visualization of some sort. All right, so that's sort of the 1, 2, 3 stack of things. So now I'm just going to talk about a few courses on LinkedIn Learning. Again, there are multiple platforms, but often folks are lost in knowing where to go. And yeah, that's my course out there, but it is a great course. Yeah, so on LinkedIn Learning, this is one of my courses called SQL Essential Training. I think it's an excellent starting block when it comes to SQL. I think did I skip one? No, okay. So when it comes to SQL, some great courses, not just this. I actually have a link, so if anyone would like the link, please feel free to message me. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, by the way, and I'm saying LinkedIn because that's the platform that I spend most of the time on, and I would recommend highly as far as a professional platform to have your presence. But these are a couple courses that are there. There are many more. SQL Essentials Training, I'm super happy and pleased and humbled that, like, as of, I believe, last week, there's 250,000 people have taken this course. So that's been a really humbling experience, but I'm super honored to help folks that are interested in pursuing this skill set. So if that's you, feel free to check out these courses or more. Or if you want to hit me up for other courses, other platforms, other spaces, feel free to do that. Okay. All right. Power BI. Here's a couple other courses. This particular instructor is very good in terms of her ability to take, and this is from the beginner perspective. That's why I'm giving these particular courses. So these are beginner courses. The filters that I use to arrive at these courses are beginner full courses that you could just really absorb the material and be functional with it right after, right? And last but not least, here are some Excel courses. I thought I skipped this one, but here it is. Okay, so I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time on this. If you want these, I do have links to these, so I could get you these links. Just let me know. All right, I'm going to pause. Any questions at this point? I know I have a question section, but we're going to switch to data science. But just wondering, I'm going to ask for assistance if there are questions, because I realize my mouse is just absent. So
I have a couple questions myself, Walter. So
okay.
is it that Microsoft is the industry standard? Is as to why we're seeing Excel and Power BI there. How, I guess, how compatible would it be if you're looking at other platforms like AWS or whatever? Are we still in the space of Microsoft being the platform of choice?
I think that's subjective to, in some ways, industry. I think that Microsoft is by no question, you're going to run into a Microsoft product
Okay.
almost in every, and let me put it this way, in my 20 plus years, I haven't had an environment where I haven't seen Microsoft Excel, for instance. Or Power BI is now relatively new, not 25 years old, but I'm seeing it much more commonly. As I work with organizations as well, I can tell that that's the go-to. I mean, like if you have the stack of, most folks have the Microsoft Office stack, right? Which Excel is a part of. So when it comes to data visualization and making it such a, which is their pitch, right? Microsoft's thing is making it so user-friendly that there is no learning curve, right? And it truly is that way in some ways. At this point, with the advent of AI, for instance, there's Copilot, which is you can virtually speak your whatever you want to have queried, for instance, in a database, which is getting to that point. But to answer your question, yes, Microsoft is just really, I would say, an industry standard. But I would also say, for instance, with regard to like SQL, it does make it's not like they have all of the market. Oracle is quite predominant, as you mentioned, AWS. Depending on the industry, which I mentioned, there are a lot of online solutions that folks that more turn to rather than the traditional Microsoft. So hope I answered the question.
You did. And we have a question in the chat, and I just want to let Andy know there are no silly questions in education. So let's just say that there are no silly questions. So the question is, this person is new and just starting in their computer science degree and want to know, are the courses you're recommending, are they only in the Microsoft platform or are they available using a Mac?
So they are available using the Mac in terms of those specifics. So there is, so for instance, I'm on a Mac right now. I use Microsoft Excel. It depends on when it comes to SQL, it depends. You can use MySQL. You can use SQLite, which is compatible with Mac and Windows. And more so, if you're on a Mac, it really isn't a prohibitive thing, right? You would want to learn on just more of an online system, right? So to answer your question, they are available on both, right? Microsoft Power BI, however, though, I would say Power BI Desktop is not available on Mac. There is a Power BI service, which is the web service, and that is available, obviously, via just the internet connection. So once all you need is a web browser. And you can do most things that you can do on of Power BI Desktop on the Power BI service.
Thank you. That was it.
All right, so let me keep pushing on here. I will take another session of questions at the end. So keep them coming. I love those questions, and to echo that sentiment, there are no questions that are outside of bounds, right? Every question is welcome, right? Okay, so let's go. Going here. All right. So when it comes to data science, and I'd say this is subjective. This is really my recommendation. Let me just coin that. I know that you could get into different arguments, but really, I don't think we're going to have much argument on the first two. Data visualization is broad, so we can probably talk about the different versions of that within data science. But let's talk about the stack here, right? Python, and again, this is just like we spoke about those skills with regard to data analytics. These skills or these particular software with regard to data science. So Python, statistics, and data visualization. And I shouldn't say software, but I should say disciplines. Okay, software in the first instance. Okay, starting with Python. Okay, so what is Python and why should we learn it with regard to data science? So when it comes to Python, there are a number of libraries that have been made specific to the functions of data science, right? And let me just get in sync with my notes here. So when it comes to, one sec. Okay, yes. So when it comes to Python, these particular libraries here, NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, these are particular libraries that have functions specific to data science, right? And that is why Python is that go-to tool. Without Python, it would be quite complicated. It's possible, but it'd be quite complicated to achieve some of the tasks that the libraries allow you to do by leveraging some of the formulas that are just embedded within the libraries, right? So Python is one of those key components. Now, when Python sounds broad, and when I speak to folks and you say, "Hey, learn Python," it sounds sort of daunting. But there are some just really key components that you should focus on when it comes to just putting this into action for you, right? And I would also say with the advent of AI, this becomes even much more of a thing that you could leverage more quickly. So you need to know like basic programming, right? In terms of loops and variables and just basics. And these are things that are very simple concepts and not specific to Python. I'm saying programming, which this is specific to any language, with specific with regard to SQL that we took a look at, right? And once you have that, then it's really leveraging some of the inbuilt tools of these particular libraries as you understand the process, the wider process that you're leveraging Python to achieve within your data science journey, right? And I'll talk a little bit more about that once I go down. But for instance, in the building of a model, you would leverage Python and its various libraries. And when I say a model, I mean like a regression model. And I know that too sometimes sounds a little muddy, but a model that, for instance, predicts, think Zillow. How does Zillow know to give you a Zestimate? It is running a certain amount of predictors through a model that then gives you a prediction on that estimate of a house, right? So things like the house size, maybe the location, and other variables that it uses to run through a model and then gives you a predicted outcome. So all you are doing is just using these particular presets of a journey to create a model and leveraging Python to do that. You can now use ChatGPT, for instance, to help you create the various pieces of your code to achieve the things that you need to achieve in building your model, right? So I know I said a lot, but there is a lot less dauntingness in the learning of Python than people think. I guess that's how I can summarize that. All right. The next thing that is very important to learn is, as I mentioned, statistics. So the discipline of statistics. So when it comes to data science, I think these are two broad areas that you should focus on: descriptive and inferential, right? So when it comes to descriptive statistics, you're focusing on things like measures of central tendency. So this is a fancy way of just saying mean, median, and mode, right? You're learning things like dispersion, like range, variance, standard deviation, things like that, things of that nature. In inferential statistics, you're doing things like, as mentioned there, hypothesis testing, confidence intervals, p-intervals, things of this nature. And I mean, this might sound like, what is he even saying? But it's like any other discipline, right? They're boxed formulas, so to speak, that you just need to learn, right? They're just step-by-step processes that you just apply, and then you know them, right? When it comes to actually, and you just need to know the concepts of them because they guide you in your model building process, right? So these are just some key components because why is this important? So for instance, as we talked about with Python, you're leveraging certain libraries and they're going to give you certain results, for instance, like p-values, for instance, right? So you need to understand what you're looking at when you look at a p-value, right? So this is sort of that part of that stack or that learning that you need to really comprehend, so that once you're building or applying these skills, or in a company, for instance, that's your value, your ability to understand what you're looking at as you're building a solution. Okay. All right. And last but not least, so this was the debatable part. I don't know if it's debatable, but when it comes to data visualization, I'm speaking about data visualization within Python, right? So I think that's a great place as a beginner when it comes to learning data visualization. That's a great place to start your journey of learning. And when it comes to data visualization, I know we spoke about Power BI. So in Power BI, we're more talking about business trends, and you're talking about understanding certain things with regard to more business focus. These are very data science specific data visualizations. Like for instance, a QQ plot or the bias variance trade-off, for instance. So they're very specific. If you're doing linear regression, the regression line is very important. So you have to learn data science specific visualizations, understand them, understand how to read, understand what they mean. And that's, again, helps you build a much better model, right? Again, using the example of Zillow, they would have had to look at some of these various data visualizations, these charts, these plots, and look at what they're and to basically improve the accuracy of their predictions, right? And it's only through reading these visualizations and understanding the readouts are you able to apply these skills sitting in the seat of a data analyst, a data scientist. Sorry. Okay. So just as we did before. We're in the last lap here, as we say. But here are some good courses to kind of focus on. Again, as a beginner, again, this is on the LinkedIn platform. There are other platforms. There's Udemy. You could do a lot of. There's Microsoft. There's Microsoft Learn, which actually has a lot of free material. So don't think like this is the only space. But here's a good starting point. Okay, so there's Data Science Foundations by Mr. Paulson there. There Python Essentials Training, and these are some good things, good spaces to start. If you're just curious, again, I think I'd say even if you're not sure, right, and this is a good way to understand, well, where do you want to go after you've done that kind of soul searching and said like, hey, you know what, I think I see myself being really valuable or doing this or really elevating in this space. It's good to kind of just check it out, like reading a book, right? You don't have to absorb it, you don't have to pass the test, you don't even have to do the quizzes, but just find out. These are great resources to just kind of figuring out, well, hey, what this thing is all about, and help you then come back to that question: is this something I really want to do, right? All right. Here are some good courses on statistics. Statistics Foundations, again, just as the basics and helping beginners from that beginner perspective to understand the space. And last but not least, again, if you want these, I have the links to these as well. So I'm not going to spend a bunch of time on it. But data visualization, a couple good courses here on the LinkedIn Learning platform. Okay. All right. I want to talk about a couple things here that are important and before I wrap up. So just jump here. By the way, any questions at this point, or in fact, I'll hold for them because the very next slide is questions. So I'll come back to that. So these are some like really important things that I feel are not spoken about a lot of times. All right. So in the journey, right? Sometimes it's especially like when you see these courses or these boot camps, and they sell you like 6 weeks or whatever it is, 6 months, and you're going to come out and earn hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I just want to just like dispel that myth because it's in my experience, it's not a linear journey. This whole thing, right? It's not like, hey, A, B, then C, right? And that's why I say the first point here is to create an ecosystem when it comes to actually trying to acquire these skills, and it takes time. As they say, there's a saying, greatness is a process, right? So it's not an overnight linear journey. And when I say create your ecosystem, I'm referring to the second bullet point, which is your online presence, and that is utilizing, yes, the skill sets that we just went through. That's sort of like the one of the core pieces. But another core piece is really having your online presence, right? Let's say you're doing these courses, you're decided, you're now doing projects, post your projects, right? Have presence on LinkedIn, for instance. I say that because there are a lot of networking opportunities on LinkedIn. There are a lot of groups in these particular sectors in LinkedIn. So it makes sense to actually get connections, get your online presence, have a professional image out there, right? Represent yourself online because our world is online as well, right? So I would highly recommend, for instance, joining groups. I think that's one of the most important things that you can do. And I say that because you get to, even if it's not really a dialogue, but you get to see what's happening really kind of in real time from people who are in your niche in that space, right? So having online presence is super important. When it comes to getting the job as well, it's sort of that cycle of activity, seeing what's out there online, applying, right? Actually going to an interview if you can, right? Going to online virtual forums like this, right? So it's all about actually going to creating your presence and creating this sort of ecosystem. Equally as important, and I think which gets forgotten, is creating your offline presence, right? As I mentioned, I did a lot of pounding the pavement in terms of going to coffee shops. I'd still say meetup.com is a great site. There's a lot of niche groups. So after you niche down, hey, you know what? I think I'm in data science. There are a lot of groups that are doing physical presence events, right? Which is always different. It's always different from the online thing. So I'd say go to those things, show up. Another great site that I use is Eventbrite, right? Eventbrite in your city, it tells you exactly what's going on in the niche. Going to tech meetups, meeting people, going to these tech happy hours, whatever it is. Show up, right? Show up with cards. Show up very intentionally, right? Because you're creating what? Your ecosystem. It's online and offline. It's doing the courses and doing the presence on LinkedIn and showing your presence in groups, right? And showing up on networking events and tapping others on the shoulder, tapping folks like me. Hey, man, hey, good stuff or not so good stuff, but hey, can you tell me a little more about this or that on LinkedIn, right? Or wherever else, or send me an email. Or point being, get actionable and know that through those multiple actions of creating this ecosystem, something always happens, right? Something always produces some sort of result, always comes out of that in the direction of what you want. Right? So I just want to end on that note and just put that out there. And last but not least, questions and answers. Anybody who has questions and answers, happy to take them now.
There was I think Andy had a comment after their question. I don't know. I think the comment was they're still learning. So I guess they're still trying to figure out. So it says, well, it's more related to this type of course. These courses are designed to become familiar to Windows and not Mac. I'm still learning what programming and data science is for, which one, I'm assuming. But at this time, feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question. So let me just see if I can kind of round that comment. So I think what happens, and you can jump in, Walter, if you like, is that depending upon what you're doing in programming may determine which platform you're working in. So there is some context. And when I'm saying platform, I'm talking about your operating system. So we have various operating systems now. Windows that has many different flavors, Windows 11, Windows 10. Then you have Windows servers, and then you have Mac. I think Mac operating systems are like El Capitan, Sierra, some other operating systems, and then you even have AWS platforms, which is Linux, right? Red Hat.
Mm.
And I think where, and I mean, you could jump in, stop me at any time. The challenge for us is where do you put those applications? Go ahead, Andy, go ahead.
So I already had an associate's in applied science. I thought I was going to go for nursing, took that back, and I was like, no, I'm going to go for computer information science because my father is a computer engineer. So I've been trying to navigate which direction I need to go in. Currently, I'm in app development with Swift, so I'm becoming familiar with Swift, and I'm now learning what Mac is all about because I don't have Mac money. So I am brand new to the Mac side. And I've heard of Python, I've heard of Linux, but I'm not familiar or educated enough to know where that applies to. So that was another reason why I wanted to join in today, is because I'm trying to still navigate which is which and what applies to what.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Walter.
well,
No.
so it comes back to that same question I was asking. So where do you see yourself going in terms of the skill sets that you're trying to acquire? Are you trying, do you know specifically what you're trying to do in terms of, it doesn't even have to be what we talked about here, data science or data
I'm
analytics,
not
but
sure. I'm not sure.
yeah,
So I come from a law enforcement and a military background. And
okay,
so I thought about doing cybersecurity. I'm so sorry.
okay,
There's a helicopter passing by me.
You're
Um,
fine.
but
you're good.
I'm thinking about cybersecurity just because I know to look for security breaches. I know where people fall short in all areas of life when it comes to security or trying to protect things. I'm very good at
Right.
that. But I
So
have found enjoyment in the Swift programming and coding. It's hard, but I'm getting there. But I'm still early on to where I don't think I can place myself in a specific type yet.
yeah. Can I say this? And I want to say this, Andy, don't stress yourself. I hate to say this because the discipline you've chosen crosses is so interdisciplinary, right? You're
Okay.
where we are is all about data. So law enforcements use data, banks use data, educational institutions use data, sports use data. So it's really the presence of the data, and it really is the context or the domain of the data. You can look at financial data, right? And you can look at credit score breaches. You can look at so where data science fits, we don't know what the data is related to, right?
Mhm.
We're just trying to tell stories from the domain of the data. And the stories that we tell are based on the tools that Mr. Shields brought out, which are a certain programming language that's used as the tool, which is Python. Understanding the how to tell the story is your statistics, and then how to visualize the story that you're telling is through the visualization. But the data is data can be in any interdisciplinary format. So cybersecurity is a umbrella term, but in cybersecurity, you can go back to law enforcement because you have criminal behavior you're trying to identify. Who are the hackers? What type of profiling are the hackers? You can look at what tactics they're doing to steal the data from the networks. You can look at all kinds of things, right? So I would tell you to take a deep breath. That's going to be the first thing.
Listen, I've been overthinking this whole process ever since I started.
I'm gonna say don't
Yeah.
overthink it, because what skills you probably are learning can be transferred interdisciplinary. That's why we're here at the consortium, right? We're here to try to bridge gaps, and that was our last data science celebration, was about bridging gaps that come across with data science, right? Because one person in computer science sees it this way, someone else in statistics sees data science this way, someone else in engineering will see data, someone in banking will see data analytics and data science something completely different. But it really boils down to the data. So I'm going to ask what Walter asked. What do you want to do with the data? Do you want to move the data? Do you want to secure the data? Because then you can go into any form or any discipline that you like with that. Do you want to just program and write programs that's processing the data? That's where
I think I want to do both of securing the data and
yeah, there
program.
you go. Yep. I think I want to say take a deep breath and give yourself, no, seriously, and give yourself time to understand what you're doing with data. That's it. because
Well, thank you so
personally,
much.
yeah, I mean, this is why we're here, and I'm glad you brought that up because you're not the only one that's the whole reason for our consortium. And that's the entire reason why we have different pillars that we talk about, because it is so vast and broad, but yet it still comes down to the data, which is what data science is all about. It's all about the data.
Well,
And
I
data,
will say this, it's been harder because I'm 32 and a single parent. And so coming from nothing but law enforcement, security, and military to switch the game up like this late in the game, in my opinion, and I'm going back to college with a bunch of, fresh out of high school
you are
students.
fine. Let me tell
Yeah.
you,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
good.
that's the least. That should be the least that you
Well,
worry.
so
Like,
I have some amazing instructors. Miss Owens at JF Drake State invited me to this, and she knows I've been pretty adamant on trying to catch up and trying to see where I want to go because I don't really know yet. But I have another instructor, Mr. Collins, and he's like, I'm not leaving nobody at the bus station. And I constantly have to tell him I'm at the bus station.
You well,
So
at least you got on our bus. So our
listen,
bus,
I'm not afraid to ask questions because if
yeah,
I don't ask questions, then I'm
yeah,
not learning.
yeah. And then if you get off at a stop, you rode our bus. So you're more than welcome to get off at the next stop, or you can continue at our next salon. You're welcome to be invited. So we
Well,
will
I
send
really
out,
appreciate it.
yeah, we'll send out invitations to the next one, right? And that's going to be another one of our pillars
yeah.
that we're going to talk about, research or something else. So I'll mention that in a moment. But thank you for those comments,
I,
Andy.
I know Miss Owens, and I will if you need something or need any help, I'll be reaching out.
Thank you so much.
You're
Okay.
welcome.
Are there any, I'm sorry, are there any other questions? Because I know we're about 1 minute into our
Yep,
time.
yep.
Okay. So let me finish
All
up,
right,
Walter, if you don't mind. You did a
all right. Thank
fantastic
you.
job, but I do want to
Let me stop.
I got it. I took it from you.
Okay.
Don't worry, I took it from you.
You took the power.
I took the power back. I've tried to. At least I tried to. Hang on. I didn't quite take it the way I wanted it.
Oh, let me stop.
That was me. Sorry. I didn't quite take the power the way I wanted. So I just wanted to share with you guys. You can always reach out. We're talking about membership, but this is nothing for you. But our next salon will be September. So we're going to work through that. So expect to hear some more information about that. Andy and all of you, share it. If you thought this was beneficial to you, please share it with someone and invite them to come to the next one. And what I'm going to say is, Walter, you did a fantastic job. Thank you so much for being a partner to the consortium. And yeah, I think it was great information.
I really, really appreciate the invite. It's an honor. I again am super excited about the HBCU Data Science Consortium, what there is to achieve. And thank you for having me to be a part of this.
Thank you. We'll be in touch. Everyone have a great day. I made it right at 1. Have a great day.
All right, bye.
Take care.